Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U Movement. This video is kind of a part two to yesterday's video about surrender. You can see my head is very wobbly right now because the Kundalini energy is in my head. And I've actually had this question posed to me before. Because when the energy is in my head, it's very destabilizing. And yesterday I was talking about being in the void, and then in the afternoon I slid way down into another dark round of Dark Night of the Soul, and what will presumably be more ego death. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the truth in regards to Dark Night of the Soul. I have done videos on the topic before. You can see my eyes are very puffy. I was purging extensively yesterday. And when I say purging, it was purging. It was screaming and releasing and child memory surfacing, but more it's not so much memory as it is a feeling, a reflection of a feeling. In Pete Walker's book, Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, From Surviving to Thriving, he talks about it as, emotional releases, emotional flashbacks, sorry. In the spiritual community, it's more referring to purges or clearings, which really neither of those definitions gives it justice or describes it accurately, fully, in the sense of if you've had an exceptionally traumatic childhood, which I did and most of my followers have. Because in my childhood, being moved around a lot before the age of 3 put me into a state of absolute terror and fear. And then when I finally got to my adoptive home, I would have night terrors as a very young child. And I was desperate to have somebody soothe me, to like stroke my head and stroke me and comfort me and care for me. And I didn't get that. So when these things surface for me, I have to do that now. I have to reparent. I've talked about reparenting in many of my videos. So I make multiple audio recordings depending on what is surfacing. And, I've used one of those audio recordings to make for the channel to help others reparent and program through that I've put up recently. And I can make more if you're looking for ones because, depending on the flavor of whatever's bubbling to the surface, sometimes it's such fear that I'm literally just looking for an affirmation that tells me I'm safe. It's okay, you're safe. And always from the you perspective. You can make these yourself because using your own voice, you know exactly what you want to hear. Just get a recording app and say all the things that you wish somebody would be saying to you, because this is your inner child surfacing, and not feeling safe is one of the biggies for me, because when I'm in what I describe as child mind, I lose my adult cognitive And I think you can tell by now that I like to be, in flow with the energy, so that I rely quite heavily and have done my whole life on my cognitive abilities. And when you return into child mind, the world becomes terrifying. And this is when a lot of people can slide into psychosis, which I have done. And I haven't really talked a lot about that because, for the most part, because I couldn't understand it fully, I didn't want to talk about it because I wanted to know what was what and what was real and what was really happening to me. And that, again, was when the energy really hit hard, and a lot of my gifts came online. This would be not this year, but last year in the spring sometime. And I was having a lot of paranoid, delusional thoughts. And the mind desperately tries to grasp hold of explanation and understanding of what's happening. And because it doesn't fully understand, it creates stories in your mind. And my stories that get created are terrifying. They're like I won't be able to survive, that death is imminent, that I'll become homeless. Child mind doesn't have the capacity. A 2-year-old doesn't have the capacity to go out of the house and work and protect themselves from abusive situations. So that's where these night terrors originated from when I was a child. And now in this pushing out, because the Kundalini pushes through all of your energetic systems, your chakra systems, to clear, to purge, and release the traumas. And so when I'm in this state, fearful thoughts take over, absolutely terrifying thoughts. And I don't know what's real. And this is a relatively common phenomenon for many people's awakenings that have difficult awakenings, is experiencing psychosis, paranoid delusions, feeling like you're being targeted, feeling unsafe in your environment. And it's exacerbated because we're a culture now that is ripe with all kinds of horror movies and suspense movies and television that plants seeds in our minds. When people wrote about shamanistic initiations or awakenings from hundreds of years ago, when the energy would have been in their minds, their visions or their experiences would have been culturally relevant to them then. So maybe seeing dragons or being, consumed by wolves if, you lived in a forest and the threat of wolves was there, or a bear attack or something like that, where those aren't culturally relevant to us today. What's culturally relevant to us today is, technology and the Illuminati and human trafficking and all kinds of scary psychopathic ideas and networks and things like that. So our mind grasps, well, my mind grasps onto, what is happening to me. You don't know. It's like you lose your reference point of reality, and it's like, am I even awakening? Is that what's even happening? Or is this some sort of manipulation happening to me right now? And I feel like I'm, suffering from dementia or a concussion, and I was concussed as a young child. I fell through a roof and had a near-death experience when I was 3. And have a nice hefty dent in the back of my head. And no doubt that is something that, is being healed and worked on through the Kundalini. So I want to talk about, the less than desirable, well, a lot of Kundalini awakening is not desirable, but the least of the desirable aspects of it is the confusion, the feeling like you're going insane, the not being able to grasp hold of reality, the not being able to utilize your cognitive abilities, or feel safe, feel grounded, as these things are being released and purged. And that's why I use a lot of very simple affirmation or mantra work while you're in these states. Because as much as you want to avoid them and push them away and be in your highest and greatest good, and nobody would ask for this. Nobody would ask to be plummeted into dark night of the soul and face fears and feel like a 2-year-old. But if you don't go and surrender, and that was yesterday's video about surrendering into the void, you also have to surrender into the darkness. You have to surrender into the purges, and it's terrifying to do that. The fear that is coming up and present, and we're just moving into new moon energy. And it's usually the new moons that knock me on my ass, which is basically where I've been knocked to. And yesterday and last night was white knuckling it, feeling absolutely like abject terror. There's an overwhelming hopelessness that takes over. Like you're going to be stuck there forever. Like there's no hope. And I'm doing this video because I know that the people that resonate with me have similar childhood experiences as I do, maybe not the exact same, but have dealt with extreme abandonment or extreme neglect or extreme abuse, and whether that be physical, psychological, sexual, those types of traumas, the big T traumas that we have endured, means that our awakenings are exceptionally challenging. And all the way along this journey, I knew that if I was being forced to face my own death, my own fear of, and it's not so much a fear of dying. I don't have a fear of dying. The fear has always been in the living. But in my life, I've had multiple moments that the desire to not be here anymore has been overwhelming. And it's not that I wanted to ever do anything, although I did, as I've mentioned in a previous video, superficially cut my wrists when I was 15. And it was a desperate attempt to, if life was pure suffering, then I wanted the suffering to end. And experiencing all of your traumas means facing that feeling of wanting the pain to end. And that's why we go through our lives disassociating or numbing or self-soothing in unhealthy coping mechanisms, because it's all in attempts to stop the suffering. And then awakenings come along and say, no, you don't get to stop the suffering anymore. You have to feel it. You have to feel the suffering. You have to be in the suffering. But we don't know how to feel. It's not safe for us to feel. We've repressed feelings. So we learn to feel the grief. And we learn to feel the anguish and the sorrow. And then we learn to sit with the even darker emotions, the depression, the pure suffering, the heart-clenching suffering of our inner children that were treated so horrifically. And in the isolation, we feel alone and want to desperately reach out and have somebody come and hold us and stroke our heads and tell us that everything's going to be okay. That you'll get through this. And so that's a friend said that to me yesterday. You'll get through this. You've got through this before, and you'll get through this now, because it feels like you're trapped in timelessness, and there is no through this. The only way through this is to fully feel it, to surrender to the dark. And it feels like you're drowning. It feels like you're dying. It feels like torture. So, this is also what awakenings look like. It's not pretty. In fact, it's horrific. And I have said that I want to show you the truth. And that means peeling back and looking at the wreckage of suffering and being with suffering. And I read recently a book, The Sophia Code. And one of the chapters in that was talking about, I believe it was Green Terra, and the violations that she had to endure. And as women, and it's not just women, it's boys as well. I think it's actually probably more boys out there than, it's harder for them to face what has been done to them, because women are told it's okay to talk about your feelings, and you get together with girls and you talk about things that happen to you and stuff like that. But I think a lot of men carry a lot of shame, especially around, sexual abuses. And if we don't, as a culture and a community, start peeling back the layers and looking at the suffering of what has been done to so many of us as children, and sitting in that and holding space for each other and letting people know that it's okay to cry and it's okay to feel the pain. Then people will be wooed into, during their awakenings, thinking that the only way to get out of the suffering is death, is to make a drastic decision for what is hopefully a temporary state of being. So if you're sitting in this type of energy, the one mantra to use is, you will get through this. You will. I will get through this. I will get through this. I have done before, and I will again. Dark night of the soul is dark. And ego death tempts you and taunts you and makes you think that it's you, your physical form, that needs to die or is dying, when it's your ego that is dissolving and collapsing. And it's important, and that we heal the ugliest of our sufferings and show ourselves compassion and love in those times, so that we can finally heal them. So I'm sending out my absolute love to everybody that is going through dark night of the soul right now. And I'm saying so much gratitude and thanks to everybody that, has reached out to me in this last round of dark night of the soul that I find myself in now. And we are a community. Like, we have to stick together. We didn't get it from other people, but we can get it from each other. The validation, the mirroring, the reflecting back that we can get through this. Lots of love. Peace out.